Have you noticed how many people out there are healing and likely struggling with life?
Whether or not people are actually talking about it, a lot of people are, and you might even be one of them.
If you're living the medical medium lifestyle, you may be doing the foods, the tools, the supplements, and still feel overwhelmed by the life part relationships, motherhood, identity changes, nervous system, purpose, and that quiet fear of, is it just me?
You're not crazy, you're not weak, and you're not alone.
I'm Eileen, an older mom, writer, former architect. And medical medium information saved my life, and my family and I have been living this way since 2012.
And I'm Amy, an autism mum, home educator, formerly worked in advertising, a near death experiencer, and we've lived medical medium since 2015.
Medical medium gives life saving information.
And here we support the life part so you can stay with it, trust yourself again, and come home to who you truly are.
Welcome to Rewild Renew, soulful discussions of life and truth. You know, Amy and I see a lot. People think healing is the finish line. And really, the way Amy and I see it, healing is the beginning of a rebuilding of something. And Amy and I are here today to talk to you about that on our latest podcast. Yes, Amy?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is where people usually wind up talking to someone like you and I.
Right.
It's because we find that once you go through those doors of healing, life is different,
Mm.
incrementally, or drastically. It can be drastically life
Hmm.
changes for people. And then you're kind of trapped between two worlds. You can't go back, and you're not
Right.
you haven't arrived either, and
Right.
it's really uncomfortable, and you don't fully know how to be yourself. You do start to feel like a bit of a stranger in your own life, I find, at this time, because your rhythms, your behaviors, your activities, your thoughts, your the way you're showing up in life has changed, and changed significantly. But this is the healing. The old lifestyle ended up in sickness. The new lifestyle is going to lead to something else. But also, this is the soul piece. This is
Yes,
what we
this is
are
the soul
getting at.
piece, right? Yeah.
This is what we're getting at through healing the body, so that we can express the soul can express itself through our lives. The soul can get to do what it came here to do, and show up in all the ways that you want to show up. Do those things you wanted to do. Take the trips, start the business, have those relationships, save the animals, all those things. It all matters. And that's why we're healing.
Well, and have that life no matter where in that healing process you are. I mean, I think, the three big obstacles we see people coming to us with and talking about out there in the land of social media is, they get a little bit into it and it's like, ooh, is this really working? When is that finish line coming? They're obsessed with this finish line. And or my family thinks I'm crazy, you know. Or the third one is kind of what we're talking about here is like, how do I have a life? How do I have a life while I'm healing? And um, some of that comes from, a little bit waiting for that finish line and then I'll have a life. But really, your soul is there through the whole process. Your soul, it's not some esoteric concept. It's who you are, and it's healing with you, and it's always had your back. And it's right there in all of these really stressful, awkward, kind of raw moments as we dive into this healing process.
Yeah, no, you're right to identify like those three big tripwires that we see within people. And the thing to notice is that those tripwires, they're not about physical healing. They're actually about that soulful element of, how do I live? How are people responding
Mhm.
to me? People are calling me crazy because I'm no longer drinking coffee and eating
Mm.
these things. People are calling me crazy. They're actually questioning who I am. People that should know me on a deep level. Like, these are really soulful issues, and wondering, will I ever get better? It's a question of faith. They're very soulful issues that we're right to question.
Mm.
It is the journey. It is the healing, because it's like you tear down all the walls and you build it again.
Hmm.
And then you build on strong foundations. And we have, it's my belief, that we have been thrown off the scent of our souls. You know,
Hmm.
we're really out of alignment when we're living our lives. We're kind of,
We
we've
don't
been
realize it though.
no, we don't, because we've been told for so long that it's, just go to school, get the education, get the job, do this, do that. That we don't look up. We can
Hmm.
get very tunnel vision, and we don't look up.
Well,
And then
because
we read
sometimes
the,
when I mean, I'm a person who was always sort of outlier a little bit, looking around the corners, picking up under the rocks, what's under here. And when you do that, you get a lot of pushback, and it feels really uncomfortable. This is why we're always saying you have to get comfortable with feeling uncomfortable because it will make other people nervous. And then
yeah,
and then you're like, am I doing the right thing? You question yourself, even though your soul, your intuition, your gut, whatever you want to call it, is telling you, there's something off here.
yeah. And we don't believe that we're special because we doubt ourselves. And I'm not saying anyone is more special than anybody else, but there is something unique about each of us.
Mm,
And if we all just did that thing, this world would be quite a fantastic place to be. Like if the people out there
yeah.
that want to go rescue the animals are doing that, and the people that want to go and protect nature, and the people that want to go and help the people, and like, and the people that want to create art and music, and oh my God, there's so much beauty with, because none of those things are, you know, are disgusting things. None of them are like evil habits. They're just like they're expressions of a desire. Like talking about the soul, but the heart and the spirit, it's all infused in that. And so, yeah, we want to get back in alignment with that. Yeah, if we're talking about healing, let's heal the whole bit. Let's just do all the healing. Let's not just decrease the inflammation. And these things are important. Get a bed and night sleep, very important. Get mental peace, very important. But like, let's go the whole mile. Let's do it all.
You and I are both many years into this lifestyle and this journey, and I think I know it's giving me some perspective that I find interesting because I didn't have this, it's definitely um, feels healing to me to have this perspective of having done this for 13 plus years now as of this recording, and to think back about those beginning moments when I was first trying to understand medical medium information and first finding medical meeting and feeling quite overwhelmed by it. And all of these, I hit all of these points that we're talking about is, you know, how do I live a life now that I'm making different choices? And there's a real comfort level now that after all of this time of doing it, that you only achieve, I think, by doing it. And I think that's something that when you hit these panic points or the panic spirals, there's some things in life that we can only gain what we're going to gain from them by doing it. There's no guarantee. There's nobody, even if they've been through it, they can't exactly tell you what you're going to go through because we all are unique. You kind of have to go through it to learn it and to process it. And that's that awkward middle stage that we're kind of talking about. So how do you survive that awkward middle stage? What are your tools? What are your bridges? Because often what we're having to do is figure out new tools, figure out new ways of dealing with people, figure out how to do something even though somebody thinks I'm crazy, and feel strong in that. Ooh, those are tough. Those are
Yeah.
tough,
No,
but they're completely doable.
yeah, no one likes to be stuck in the awkward middle. It's just such a painful place
Yeah,
you and I, we call that the bridge, don't we? We're
yeah,
always
yeah,
like, that's what we see that we do for people is we are that bridge,
yeah.
just helping people traverse from one space to another, and
Hmm.
then they're good to go. It's not about telling people what to do because that's all within them. But no one wants to be stuck in the awkward middle. Nobody wants to have people that they love and respect think that they're crazy.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to feel isolated or feel like watch everybody else running around living their lives while you feel like I didn't get to go on that holiday that they've gone on because I'm at home healing, and it feels like it's not my time now. And then we're stuck with this unquantifiable amount of time of, how long it's going to take us to get there. So we have never, Eileen and I have never promised you that the healing journey is an easy one. We have always promised you it's a very worthwhile pursuit. And it's
That's
kind
right.
of it's the business of life. It's the real kind of thing that we should, there's that, I don't like that word should, but that we ought to be kind of getting on with here in life, because we're going to learn a lot about ourselves and our souls and what we really want to do in this world.
Well, sometimes I like to take it out of the healing, and because it's really easy to become chronically ill, want to heal, and blame all of the stuff that's happening on that. But, let's say I was married. I've knew my husband for, I don't know, 16 years before we were married and starting to have children. And so we had a really well-established relationship. And then we decided to have children. You want to talk about upheaval and reevaluating your relationship and your priorities. We made major changes. I know, Amy, you talk about this a lot. Like you came into healing and you decided to homeschool your kids. Like that's major life shifting and it changes your daily priorities. It changes your relationship with your husband. Like it's normal to have things come into your life, good and bad, that are upheaval, right? And so you're in this awkward middle stage where you're building the bridge and you're crossing the bridge into what was and what's going to be. So I think people naturally, of course, it's all the fault of my healing or the way I'm choosing to heal. Actually, no, this is really just a normal part of life. So yes, it's unfortunate that you're having to choose to heal because you got ill, but it's 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 really a normal part of life to have to make big changes like that.
Yeah, yeah, and it is that healing that it is the process of healing that is so important for us. It's where we learn and we grow so much. I'm going to quote something from Anthony William, medical medium, where he said, spiritual growth is going without. So it's so nice to have all the things, the holidays, the amazing wardrobe, the this, the that, like all the things, the friendships, the social life. It's also not where you're going to learn the most. I mean, we want some of that for sure, of course, but you're going to really learn a thing or two about yourself when all that falls away. You're going to learn a lot about the people around you as well when all of that falls away. So, it's this really important stage and phase that we find ourselves in, and it's just worth knowing that if you're there and you're feeling all of this, that's just fine. And that's just really where you're supposed to be. And it doesn't mean it will always feel like this. Because actually, Eileen, you just said something interesting, like home education became a part of our healing journey. And absolutely, and I do like to talk about this because the way that we were shaping our lives and the way that we were supporting our children with neurodiversities while they're healing, and they are healing, it was a great positive step for us, and those structural changes are really significant. But the thing is that happened years into our healing journey, and this is the thing that Eileen and I say, is that we are years in now, and
Yeah.
we've been doing this for like over a decade. And so it and in a decade's time our lives are also going to look really different. So if you have been healing for a really long time, this still applies. This applies
You're
at
right, right.
every
It's a
stage.
lifetime process, whether it's about healing or not. Chris, my husband and I have this little joke because I think the brain sort of figures out when you have your first job and you start spending your own money, your brain decides how much things cost. And then all of a sudden, it's 20 years later and things are more expensive. And this is why older people are like, oh, that sandwich was really expensive, or oh, that's so expensive. I noticed this about people and I was like, oh, yeah, because when you first got a job and your brain decided how much things cost, that's how much they cost. So it's kind of this natural process. Like life is always changing and we're always having to readjust. But changing and readjusting is really hard for some people. And
Yeah.
and so the healing process. So like when I had my kids, in a private, alternative private school. I homeschooled them and they went to public school because we were trying to figure it out. But when Chris and I started thinking about kids, that was never, it was not even in our mind that we would send our kids to private school or homeschool them. We just assumed we do what everybody else would do. But then you give birth to a couple of sensitive kids, and then one has a medical injury, and you're like, oh, wait, everything that I thought would be true isn't true. So, yes, a part of that is because of chronic health issues, but that's life. That's just life. And so
Yeah,
those are
yeah.
the tools you need to live. That's the awkwardness of life. That's why you need these bridges, and that's why you need support. If you don't have those tools, or if you've used your tools and they've overwhelmed you or brought you down, this is why that uncomfortableness to figure out a different way, a new way is what the game is. This is life. This is where your soul really like kicks in and works for you.
Yeah, and that's it. And the soul, when we start talking about the soul, it can start to feel intangible because, what is the soul? And I'm just really busy and I've really got to get these things done and I've got to earn my money and I've got to do these things. I got to pay bills, but this is where the soul is. It is that expression of life. It
Yeah.
is in your relationships. And, your soul is shaped by the experiences that you've been through, which is why we say the rebuild of your life is the healing. The reduction in your symptoms is a miracle, nothing short of a miracle, and something to celebrate. And it just doesn't end there. It goes
Mhm.
on because why do you keep healing or keep pursuing healing when those symptoms have gone away? Like I'm doing, like Eileen's doing. Like, why are we still doing it?
Because we gain
Because
so much from it,
and because we know there's more to it than that.
right?
Ultimately, we know we get a taste of it and we see,
Mhm.
oh yeah, my intuition's raising. I'm figuring out who I am. I didn't realize I was supposed to be doing this in the planet. I thought that the world was about this, but actually it's about that.
Right.
And so we just become more connected, more aligned, more driven in that sense.
Mhm.
So it's an incredible process to go through.
And it doesn't look like it on the outside for people who aren't going through that same process that you are. But for me personally, it feels more peaceful, more steady, more grounded. Like all of those things that I was always looking for in my 20s, I never thought this is how I would achieve them. But so I think it looks on the outside to other people like you're restricted. I don't feel restricted. I don't feel like anybody's forcing me to do anything. I'm really happy with my choices, truly happy with my choices. So when you're looking to other people to say, is this right what I'm doing? What you want to find, the work is really finding that inner peace of, yeah, I'm sure of what I'm doing, whether you think so or not.
Which is what we're doing here is we're
Hmm.
building so much strength and resilience because
Hmm.
typically this is what we see all the time and what we would have experienced ourselves. I think I can talk for you as well in this, Eileen, I hope. But like is we're always looking outside for validation and for like, is this the right way to go? And what we do in this healing phase is we really build this resilience, and I don't care if the whole world is telling me no, it's a yes from me, because we start to learn to trust that within ourselves. And here's another thing that I'll tell you this for free. My son always says that I'm going to tell you this for free, and it's if we were laughing about it just this weekend, and it's that you will go through these huge paradigm shifts and your world will change. But the funny thing is people aren't going to see that. People, like you're saying, Eileen, like the
They don't
people
see what's
closest
going
to
on
you,
inside in your soul. Uh-uh.
it just looks like business as normal.
Hmm.
And that is so hard to get our heads around because we might be like just torn up inside about I'm so different and how can I be in this relationship and oh my God, and how is this going to work and how will I do this? But people are just, they see you as you always have been. So just be ready for that because when we receive wisdom and information like we have in medical medium series, it it's a lot for us to take in and digest and assimilate. And so people run out there change the world and like tell everyone this is why your skin's itchy and this is why you're tired and you should just do this. And not everyone wants that. They just want you and to connect with you. And that's a soul connection. It's separate to what level of truth people are ready for. It's a very separate thing.
I experienced this outside of the healing world. When I was young, I moved a lot. And the hardest move was when I was 14 or 15, because it's a hard time to move. And I was leaving a school that actually was scary. It was big and kind of urban, but I had a good friend there. And we were moving to a place that was very different culturally, several states away. And I kid you not. So I was from New York State, but not New York City. And New York, for those of you who don't know, New York has a lot of farmland and country as people think of all of New York as New York City. It's not. And my family was actually from the middle of New York State where there's lots of farms and stuff. And that's where my parents grew up. And I moved to the Midwest. And all of the kids in the high school heard a girl from New York was the new girl was from New York. And I remember sitting in class next to this girl who got brave enough to talk to me. And her first words out of her mouth to me was, I have to be careful how I say this. How many times were you graped? And I said, what? And she said it again. And I said, never. Why are you asking me that? And she goes, well, you're from New York, right? Isn't that what happens to everybody in New York? So that's a lot of ignorance. That's a whole lot of ignorance. And um, I was an outlier, and I figured out people were afraid of me because I was from New York. They assumed I was in some violent gang. And here I was, a country girl. And so that story still blows my mind. And if I hadn't experienced it, I don't think I would have believed it. So I had to learn to be me in this environment where people had all of these assumptions about who I was and get really comfortable. It was really hard, but I did wind up making really good friends. And um, that that's kind of what happens in healing is people hear the choices that you're making and they're coming from this place of I'm not trying to be mean, but they're coming from a place of ignorance. So I remember this kind of culminated for me. I was about 17 and I came home from school and I was just on the sofa sobbing because of something somebody had said to me. I don't actually remember what they said, but my father was trying to console me and he said, can he calmed me down? He said, "Can I ask you a very serious question?" I said, "Yes." And he goes, "Do you honestly care what that person thinks of you?" And there's something about the way he asked it. And I was like, oh, actually, no, they're not very relevant to my life. And he said, so why are you letting it upset you? And it just clicked for me in that moment that it's not about making other people bad, but other people just, they don't know what's going on in your soul. They don't know what's going on in your life. They haven't lived your life. They haven't walked your walk. They don't know what you feel, what you know, what you've experienced. They actually don't have a right to judge. Uh, maybe they do have a right to their opinion, but I get to choose whether I allow their opinion to bother me or not. And that's the kind of resilience that this, finding the tools in the bridge can help you so that you can make those choices and feel peaceful about them. Because I don't think there's always going to be somebody who thinks what you're doing is nuts. No matter what that choice is, there's always going to be one side of the other side of the fence who doesn't like it.
And it's the crazy makers of the world that make the big change and make the positive stuff,
Yeah.
isn't it? Like you look,
Yes.
I'm sure you've all read a few biographies, and the people that like do good things, the people that inspire you, they weren't just, they were square pegs in round holes.
Yeah.
They all stuck out. So we can celebrate that phase within us. But I think we'd like to invite you to kind of think about that awkward middle and sort of look at what those resistance points are in your life, and just to acknowledge them, because it's easier once you name the struggle. Everything becomes easier when you accept, like, this is where I am, this feels difficult because of this, it feels too much, I don't want to be the crazy person, or whatever it is. Like, just bring some awareness to that, because clarity is a gift. And we actually will be back next week, won't we, Eileen? We're going to have a podcast running each week for the next few weeks. We're normally every 2 weeks, but we're going to be showing up a little more.
Hmm.
So book a spot for the week after, because we'll be back and we'll be talking some more about what healing really looks like in a life, how healing fits into a life, and how healing shapes a life, because they're really important things for us to discover and to go through and to learn so much about ourselves and our souls.
Yeah, and I bet no matter where you are in the process, you're probably here because you had some kind of win, some kind of aha moment, some kind of something that just feels a little better, even though other people might not understand it. And that's where we focus, because that will have a ripple effect in your life and on your soul. So we want you to remember, as we always say, remember how powerful your soul is today. And don't give that power away to anybody else. And we'll see you on another podcast very soon. How was that?
Good, good. I thought I'd stop it so that we didn't use up all the content in one go.
Yeah. No, it's good.
um, I was going to ask, could you